Okay, got it now. Sorry, I was like, do you want me looking at that the whole time?
And then she's like,
I'm not an active person.
welcome everybody to The Human Experience with Bree LaRue. I am so thrilled because today I have one of my very dear friends here, Fleur Heaton. Yay! I'm sorry, but I'm very excited. So Fleur is a qualified naturopath. She is learning the art of tea ceremony, and she also holds beautiful gatherings and retreats up at her place in Waiwera. And I am just so thrilled to have you here today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. What would you recommend for healing after a terrible separation from my ex-husband or partner?
Okay, that's a really good question, and I think it's actually something that I can speak to from direct experience, having gone through this over this past year. And not that I've divorced a husband or anything like that.
Is there a husband?
But I think it's nice to have the compassion of experience and really speak to that from that place. And I know that you'll also have some wonderful feedback to this person as well. So what I think really has been a basis for me when we're moving through change or we're exploring separation and moving through separation from someone that we've spent a significant amount of time with. It's how do we look at ourselves within the situation, and how do we always orient back to our own hearts and keeping ourselves safe within that. And I think when that kind of thing happens, it's really easy to become ungrounded and go into our wounding instead of actually moving through it. What speaks to one person isn't necessarily going to be another person's medicine, and it's coming inward, really checking in with yourself. And I think when we're moving through trauma and pain, it's a day-to-day thing. We're not going to necessarily show up in the same way that we showed up yesterday as we are today or in the future. So we're actually evolving and growing as it's happening, and we might not even be able to cope in that moment. So it's having forgiveness for ourselves as well, and witnessing how we could give ourselves more tools, but also honouring ourselves when we don't want to do something, or when it feels sticky and it feels like all we want to do is cry. But then also when we start to do more maybe destructive behaviours within that, calling ourselves out as well and holding ourselves accountable, I think is really important.
We are changing tact, and we are moving forward to a more, I guess, ailment kind of a question. My baby girl is 9 and has had eczema for her whole life. We've tried a lot of things, but nothing seems to work. Do you have any advice for us?
Yes, I do. I work a lot with a lot of skin issues, and specifically with children. And firstly, I'd say find yourself under the guidance of a naturopath. I think that with a lot of information out there today, it's easy to self-diagnose and also give yourself a lot of supplements and start treating and doing all of these things. There's a few basic rules that will make a huge difference, and I can go into them. But first and foremost, if you're really struggling, I would recommend being under the guidance of a naturopath that can really hold you and your family. I can't speak more about the environment that we live in is an indication of how our children's skin is. So
That's so good to bring up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people aren't aware of that.
No. And so there's some basic things within our bodies that we really need that we're not getting. And one of them is minerals and water. You know how water is so important.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are drinking water that's kind of from the mains and not necessarily mineralized. Yeah. So we're dealing with mineral deficient children and parents as well. So my first thing would be to look into getting spring water and remineralizing your water with some trace minerals. I recommend the BioTrace ones.
It sounds like it's like a real back to basics thing. So it's like the water that you drink. What environment are you in? Like what's what's the carpet like? What's the dust like? What are the curtains like?
Absolutely.
Like really it's those everyday things which are going to make such a huge difference. How do I maintain and stay strong in what I believe in a world where people can be so damning of other people's beliefs and choices?
I love
Isn't
this
that
one.
great?
Well, first of all, I can speak directly to this. I think find your passion and immerse yourself in it so deeply that nothing will take you away from your love. And I think when we sit in our hearts and we love something with all of that, nothing can change what we're feeling inside. And actually it's ultimately how we retain and find our power, and I think that's through love. And I've not necessarily had a linear, straightforward path with my work. It's very left of field. I remember my lecturer at university said to me, "Oh, that's such an esoteric way of looking at things, Fleur," which is funny, but also very true for me. And
Thank you, Professor. Yes, that's true.
And I had a moment where, oh no, I don't fit in. I don't fit into this school, this model, this way of being. But, you know, I think I've never given up on my creative expression, and I think we should all be encouraged to fly our kite.
Yeah.
And to live from this beautiful place. And there are some key things that you can do to maintain that. And mine is always looking at my work, going back into myself, seeing myself, staying away from things that put us down. So if you've got people in your life that don't support you, I think it's looking into what the trigger is, not necessarily blocking them and being like, oh, you don't support me. It's more like, what am I not accepting about myself by listening to that person?
What tea would you recommend, Fleur, for someone with malabsorption and being underweight?
When we've got malabsorption and we're underweight, that calls in for more nourishment. What can we bring in more of into our being? And there's some few really amazing plant allies that can do that for us, especially when we're stressed, or our bodies have more of a tendency to be that Vata constitution, which is depleting energy really quickly.
Is that hot?
No, more light and up in the air, and more
Okay.
more like thin and slender, and energy's dispersing. So we really want to bring the energy back in. And the plants that are amazing allies, I would say, is nettle. Nettle is a really beautiful mothering herb. She's really high in minerals. She's universal. She can be used with anyone, and I call her a she because she it might sound really crazy, but it's just part of the herbal world where we relate to plants in this really beautiful way. And so I'd say nettle would be one. Oat straw's another. She also works on the
nurturing
nervous system. So a plant like both those plants are incredibly restorative. I would say to use both of them as an infusion, so you're rendering more of the minerals and more of the vitamins from the plant. So buying both of the dried herbs, putting a handful in a mason jar, putting water on it, leaving it overnight to steep, then drinking that throughout the day. Both of them are so high in minerals that they actually go off really quickly. So their shelf life's only 1 to 2 days, so making sure that you drink them. And you can add them into broths, or just drink them as a cold infusion or a warm infusion.
Oh, what is it that inspired you or led you to do the work that you do?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question, and I don't. How do I answer this? I went through a healing journey. I think that's what sparked my interest, and probably the revelation of my own magic, and the natural world inspires me endlessly. The connection.
I like what you just said.
What, the natural world?
The revelation of my own magic. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was almost like and it was the cultivation of relationship to self and to the land, and seeing this beautiful web that is all around us, and the energetics of human experience where we're all connected, the symbiosis of life where I'm connected to you, we're connected to our natural world.
To you, Aiken, too.
And to our guy, that's holding it down. But yeah, I think that inspired me, and then I feel like and this might sound woo-woo, but I've been deeply led by spirit. I know this to be true now. I don't often look outside of myself for my work. It's very inspired by my own curiosity. That would be the word.
Yeah.
I'd say it's curiosity for the beauty of, nature.
I struggle with hormonal breakouts on my chest and back. Help. Help me. Is there anything I can do?
Yes. Okay, so hormones is a big topic for women. I would recommend following Dr. Jolene Brighton. She's on Instagram. You can check out, we could put that in the notes. She speaks a lot about women's hormones, and she's a doctor, so she's very well educated. If you've been struggling for a long time, I'd say go back to naturopath, having a good naturopath. But hormones, if you just want to do basics, clear your liver, get yourself on a good liver tonic. Zinc, elemental zinc, so I recommend the BioTrace elemental zinc. It's pretty amazing. You can also do a Dutch test that's more specific, so that would be working with a naturopath again. There's a few beautiful herbs that can support our hormones. But skin and breakout, we need to go down the gut and the enzyme realms of treatment as well. So I would say you could probably do the basics, but again, going back to water and food. So if you are really struggling with your skin, perhaps looking at your relationship with what you're eating and how well your body's detoxing, so your lymphatic system as well, making sure that you're drinking enough water. Saunas can be really helpful. Staying off dairy and gluten. Unfortunately, I know it sounds like it's a fad, but when our body is expressing in this way, I'd say that that's your gut speaking out to you as well. So I don't know how old this viewer's question is as well, so age can be related to that.
What is the best way to work? You've talked a lot about gut, and that obviously is where a lot of things stem from. What is the best way to work with gut imbalances? As I say that, I'm thinking, there's billions of bacteria. It's probably really bloody hard, depending on each person, but...
Okay, I think it's going back to nature again and looking, our microbiome's amazing. It's actually like a forest, and there's actual different species that are living within it, and what feeds these species is our food. So what they're finding is scientists are finding that certain microbial species are actually becoming extinct because we're not feeding them the foods that they were used to eating. So before we got colonized, I guess, with the Western diet of sugar and
high grain?
Grains, processed foods, we were eating a lot more fermented foods, bitters, and seasonal foods that we wouldn't have eaten something for the whole season. And so we would have been getting all these different foods that would have fed certain colonies of bacteria.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that is so interesting.
Very fascinating, and also interestingly, this is also happening in our soil too. So as our gut bacteria dies out, we had a direct relationship to land where we've actually got bacteria on our hands, and by touching the soil and getting our hands in the soil, we also help our microbiome too.
Wow.
So there's places in China, I think, where people are living in high-rise buildings and they're actually taking dirt to help their microbiome. So sterility is actually also a huge problem. So people using a lot of bacterial soaps, you're actually killing the microbiome on your hands, and you're also in turn that goes into our gut as well and kills our gut bacteria. So as a base, really start to reintroduce bitter foods, ferments, seasonal eating, variety. We need variety as humans, and also interacting with our soil, and water again is another one. So the pH of the water that we're drinking also will have a direct effect on our microbiome too.
About tea ceremonies lately, but I don't know what it is. What is a tea ceremony, and what is the meaning behind this practice?
Wow, that's also quite a big topic. Tea...
How long have you got? No.
Okay, first of all, I'll start with tea is a practice that's a lineage, and it gets passed down. I was lucky enough to be shown the way of tea through my dear friend Baylin, who is All Matters of Spirit, and also my dear friend Sam, who has Tea Above the Clouds. Tea is, and Baylin and Sam will be able to speak to this much better than myself, but it's actually a practice of ceremony, it can be taken in simplicity and it can be taken in a complicated way. So Sam always says that how we do one thing is how we do everything. The practice of tea is an offering of reverence to whoever we're serving and also an offering of reverence to ourselves. It can be used as a daily practice for as a meditation, as an anchor. Tea that they use is from old tea plants that were used by the sages, and it comes from these beautiful temples that they built to reverent tea. And so it's a very old practice and a way to connect in with nature and yourselves.
What I think, this is our last question. It's our last question. And this is a big question because this will, interest a lot of people. What are the best natural recommendations for pregnancy and conception if you're struggling to get pregnant?
So I want to go right back to how we interact with our moon cycle, so our period and our wombs. I feel like a lot of women live really busy lives where they've been on the oral contraceptive pill and they've been almost suppressing this idea of creation and our womb and in a healthy period. And then all of a sudden we decide we want to get pregnant like that. And our bodies are so smart. What we're telling it is how it's going to respond. And oral contraceptive pills, they often deplete a lot of minerals, especially ones that we need in pregnancy. So my thing would be prepare yourself, get in touch with your body, learn about your cycle, and really respect that women are creators and this is our creative space, and that we also can hold a lot of trauma in our womb as well. So clearing space for the creation of a baby is super important in my mind. And then a few basics would be getting on nettle again is a really beautiful woman's herb, just because it's so high in minerals and vitamins.
I'm going to get some.
Another one would be minerals, so trace minerals, you can get them from BioTrace without the copper. Vitamin C is important, I'd say food-based. For me, all supplements have to be food-based. I absolutely don't dabble in low-quality supplements. I believe in bioenergetics and supplements that hold a resonance for the cellular energy of the body too. So, and just really prepping your body with food, so bone broths, smoothies, making sure that you're getting all of your antioxidants, and really looking at your body as a baseline. We don't want to be bringing a baby in when we've got toxicity in our bodies.
So it's like allow yourself the time to spend that time with yourself.
Yeah. And supporting our bodies through pregnancy, I would say, again, go to a practitioner if that's something that you can afford to do. Otherwise, there's some really great resources out there for pregnancy and women, I think, in the herbal world. So if you want to message me, I can send these to you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I don't know about you guys, but old mate over here is a wealth of knowledge. Like, you clearly have learnt so much.
Thank you.
It's just such a it is such a privilege to hear you speak and to share your wisdom with us.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for being here. I'm sure you probably helped just a lot of people in terms of what they've got going on in their lives. So
thank you for having me. I have enjoyed this a lot.
Yay.
Hi guys, my name's Fleur. I just had an amazing interview with Bree on her show, The Human Experience. If you want to catch more of her videos, you can subscribe to her channel. If you'd like to find out more about my work, you can check out my website. It's wildalchemylove.com, or follow me on Instagram. It's wild_alchemy_. And I just want to thank you all so much for tuning in and hearing more about my work and my wisdom. So thank you all very much.